Welcome to eTimes, Shabana ji, and thank you so much for joining us. It's my honor to do this interview with you, and thank you so much, first and foremost, for agreeing for the same.
It's a pleasure. Thank you.
Shabana ji, extremely gloomy times, terrible times, but we must start off on a positive note and ask you first and foremost. Today is your birthday. What are your plans today?
My plans are to do nothing at all. And this, I think, is a very unique way of celebrating my birthday because it has never happened that I have been in Mumbai. And I'm not one to giving parties on my birthday, but normally people drop in from afternoon onwards. It's sort of informal and nice, but unfortunately, we've had a COVID case in the building, and so all visitors' entry has been banned. I think that's a way of saying that let's celebrate it differently from how we have all these years.
Okay. So, I have seen your movie, Mee Raqsam, and very sensitive, very emotional. Did Baba get this idea at home itself? Say,
Um,
you told your father that you want to pursue a particular profession. Is it stemming from there?
Not really, because as you know that Baba Azmi has been an extremely respected DOP of very many mainstream Hindi films. And I mean, people know him because of his iconic songs, Ek Do Teen Char Panch Chhe Saat Aath, or Hawa Hawai, or Dhak Dhak Karne Laga, etc., etc.
Yeah.
And he used to always say that I am a mainstream cinema person, and that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to make a mainstream film. And in fact, he also started working on 2 scripts which were basically thrillers, magar uska dil nahi laga usme. And it was my father's birth centenary year. And he recollected a conversation he'd had with my father when Abba had expressed a desire ke, Baba, will it be possible for you to shoot a film in Mijwa? Now, at that time, there was absolutely no infrastructure or whatever, so Baba just smiled it away. But in his birth centenary year, Baba felt almost compelled from inside because he discarded these commercial scripts that he had and suddenly came forward with this story along with his writer Ali Hussain Mir. And after interviewing many girls in Mumbai, there were girls from already acting, or there were girls who were dancers, or there were girls from advertising industry, but he felt कि उनमें वो मिट्टी की खुशबू नहीं है जिसकी तलाश में बाबा थे. And so he went to Mijwa, the tiny little village in Azamgarh, which is the place of my father's birth, and actually found Aditi Subedi right there in Mijwa. She had never done a step of Bharatnatyam. She had never faced the camera, but she was prepared to give it her best. And then she was brought to Mumbai, and she practiced every day for 3 months Bharatnatyam for like from 6 to 9 hours a day. Her legs would get swollen up and become like khambas. But she proved her mettle, and the fact that people have liked her so much goes enormously for the fact that this is about the young India aspiring, having so much talent and aspiring to get a break. And here is the success story of this girl who got the break. And the accolades that she's drawn for her performance is very heartwarming, because my father all his life worked for the empowerment of women and the girl child. And Aditi's success has now opened new paths for many girls in and around Mijwa who have different aspirations, and they feel, oh my God, we can also do it.
Pull it off.
So in very many ways, I'm sure my father must be very, very pleased because, as you know, the film, uh, his values are pervasive in the film. It's not about him, certainly. It's a bond between a father and a daughter, and his unconditional support to her in the face of great hostility from the community.
Yeah.
There are in the film very many beautiful things. The respect for India's pluralism and her composite culture and her Ganga Jamni Tehzeeb. He talks about how Bharatnatyam is part of our cultural heritage and we should make a difference between religion and cultural heritage. And so all these things, of course, were values that my father wrote about in all his films. Then he's also a special kind of father. He is both father and mother to his daughter. And he's very different from the masculinity that you see in and around you in society, which is so toxic and which is about power and which is about muscle. And the film begs to answer the question, why can't we redefine masculinity? Why can it also not be about nurturing? Why can't it be about sensitivity? Why can't it be about support? And that's beautiful. The film has come in for so much appreciation. Baba has come in for so much appreciation that I really feel that it's my parents' blessings on him. Because there was a time when Baba used to say that I am not going to do all this art cinema and all that. You know, I'm a mainstream person. And my father would just smile away because I think he knew that the prodigal son would return as he did. It's been a very happy time, mashallah, for the family.
Daddy's dream fulfilled.
Yes, yes.
That's fantastic. And the movie is also selected as the opening film of the prestigious coalition of South Asian Film Festivals 2020. That's a big, big honor.
In America, in the US, yes. And it's the opening night film. You know, people really vie to get the opening night film. And it's closing, the film closes with E. Baliu, which is one of my favorite films this year. So it's really a big honor. It has also been chosen to be the opening night film at the Ireland Indian Film Festival in Dublin later in the year.
I'm going back to the day when you told your father that you want to pursue this profession of becoming an actress. And I read that he told you that even if you want to be the shoemaker, I will support you thick and thin and ensure that you become the best shoemaker in the world. Correct? But were there any other instances during your career where you got a little stuck or where you needed an opinion, where you had to go to him and say, okay, Dad, now what?
You know, not so much to do with my career, but a lot to do with the political stances that I was taking. And in 1986, I had gone on a hunger strike for 5 days, along with 3 slum dwellers and Anand Patwardhan, the filmmaker, because there was a slum that had been demolished. And according to public policy, those people should have got alternative land, but they weren't being given alternative land. So Nivara Haq, the organization that I was part of, decided to go on a hunger strike. Now, about 5 days after the strike, my blood pressure started falling and my mother was very nervous. And she called up my father, who was in Patna at that time. And she said, please tell your daughter to stop this, look at what she's doing. So my father sent a telegram saying, best of luck, comrade. That was the kind of person he was. So whenever I have been in confusion, whenever I've been troubled, I have always depended on my father to give me a very objective opinion, which he always did.
In your early days, or maybe even in your latter part of your career, did you ask him that should I do this film or not do this film? Were there
I
instances
can't.
of such kind?
I can't remember
Mm-hmm.
asking my mother or my father.
Mm-hmm.
It was always my instinct that led me to do the film,
Mm-hmm.
and it was. But it 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 was not in my career that there was any intervention on their side, because I really think that I have been very fortunate to be at the right place at the right time. See, I started when with Ankur and the parallel cinema movement started, because of
74.
which, yes, and I got it became so popular. So many films were made at that time, and because of it, I got some very interesting parts that wouldn't have
Yeah.
been available
Yeah.
in mainstream cinema. Then when uh, in the West, they started looking at Asians
Mm.
and at Indians. I did Madame Suzatska with Shirley MacLaine as early as 1989. And then there have been a whole spate of movies that I've done. Now, again, in Spielberg's Halo,
Yeah.
I play Admiral Margaret Parangosky. And it's colorblind casting, which Asians have been asking for so long. Asians have been saying, why must all the best roles only go to Caucasians?
Mm.
Why must we be cast only because we are Asians?
Mm.
Now in Halo, there are Korean actors, there are Canadian actors, there are English actors, there
Mm.
is me, and I am not asked to put on an accent. I am not made to color my hair. I am as I am, and I speak as I do. And it's completely colorblind, which is really a very healthy thing that is happening. So I've been fortunate in my career.
I can imagine the comfort level then, because you are just what you are there.
Yes, yes.
But Shabana ji, going back to 74 straight, right from that day when, you got your first national award for Ankur, first film, first national award, it's very easy to get carried away in this profession. Whether you are in 1960, 1970, 1980, whenever. How did you handle that period?
It came so soon that I think that it didn't even quite register. But
Hmm.
it was the first time, because of Ankur, that I went abroad for the first time, because
Hmm.
it was also seen at the Berlin Film Festival. And I traveled with Sham to Berlin. It was the first time I was
Yeah.
going abroad. It was all happening really soon. I don't think I processed it
Hmm.
uh, enough.
Hmm.
But subsequently, to get 4 more awards is obviously extremely
Hmm.
gratifying and rare. And I really think that it became possible because there were writers who wrote such incredible parts, and there were directors who made these films, and there were producers who were willing to put money in these subjects, which were not mainstream subject. I also want to tell you, Vicky, that really, truly, after being in this profession for so many years, I do feel that we must acknowledge that filmmaking is a very collaborative art. The actor gets away with most of the credit because she's the one in front of the camera. But the actor knows that it is because there are a whole host of technicians working behind the scenes that enhance your strengths and cover up your weaknesses, that you are able to make
Yeah.
this impression. So it's a very collaborative medium. And if you've done well in a film, it has to do with the writer, the director, the editor, the sound recorders, the cameraman, and most of all, your co-stars. It's not like in theater. In theater, that's why theater is called an actor's medium, and film is called a director's medium, and television is called a writer's medium.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I must laud you for joining this campaign with Femina, Abuse Against Women. And the recent statistics show that 86% of the women are abused, and 77% of them out here don't come out and say anything. Obviously, it's a case of log kya kahenge. So,
See,
where
we
does
have
this
to go
come
back
from?
a little bit.
And why is it increasing? I mean, I know it has increased during lockdown. The lockdown will one day get over. But where is it going? If it has increased, it has increased. And is it stemming also from the fact that our, this whole desire for having a male child has still not waned?
The pressure to keep the marriage alive under all circumstances is the reason why women continue to live in violent marriages. What should happen is if the daughter goes and complains to her parents that he raised his hand at me, parents should just bring the daughter away and say that there's zero tolerance for violence. Instead, parents say, अरे he must have been in a bad mood, एक थप्पड़ी तो मारा है, उस पे थोड़ी शादी तोड़ देते हैं. As if breaking up the marriage is the worst thing that can happen. Also, in the absence of most women not having any sort of social security, where will they take their children and go?
Yeah, and the financial independence,
they're not standing on their own feet. They don't have employment. So there are so many factors because of which a woman stays back in a violent marriage. So I feel it is very, very important that parents particularly should keep their doors open for their daughter just as they do for their sons. And there should be zero tolerance for violence against women. You can't say just one slap is enough. It's a deeply patriarchal society, let's remember that, where so many times the woman herself thinks maybe she is to blame. That's what her neighbors tell her. That's what her parents tell her. That kusur shayad tumhara hi hoga, you must have raised your voice or you must have done something. It just cannot be acceptable. I've not just done this for Femina, I've also done it for the Commonwealth.
Yes.
The Commonwealth has now brought out a campaign against violence. And I'm very happy to be part of that. I think it's very important to raise awareness and make people feel. See, many people always feel that this is a private matter. We shouldn't interfere. The fact is you must.
Yeah.
The fact is you must. You have to provide support to the woman who is suffering it. We can no longer treat it like a private matter. It is society's responsibility, and that's why all these campaigns that say no more and no more excuses, no more shame, no more guilt attached to it, no more blame. That's what
I completely agree with you. You said the woman is, the mental makeup you indicated is like that. कि चलाना है इस रिश्ते को, चलाते रहो. But my second part of the question, which I asked you, are these connected? Is the desire for the male child still as much as it was 50 years back?
Oh yes, of course. Oh yes, of course. Absolutely. There's no doubt in it, because you must see that, India lives in several centuries simultaneously. So you have, on the one hand, very successful women in very important positions. On the other hand, female feticide is still being practiced. And women, young girls, are being denied equal access to education, to health, to all these things.
Yeah.
That is precisely the work that I'm doing with Mijma Welfare Society, which is an NGO which was founded by my father, Kefi Azmi, because he believed that if India is to make real progress, then we have to turn to our villages, where 70% of the population lives. And see the work that we've been doing, the work that I do with Nivara Hub, the work that I've done with Mijwa Welfare Society, they come at an intersection very nicely, because we have to understand, why do people come from the village to the city? They come in search of work. Work they find, but they don't get housing. Now, with this exodus of the migrant workers, everything that we've been saying for so many years, it comes even more sharply into focus. The fact is that society has to treat people better. And our migrant labor really are people who ran the city, but we didn't care about the kind of housing that came their way, about the lack of sanitation that comes their way, about the complete absence of any civic amenities. जब हम पे पड़ी, तब हमको पता चला कि हाँ भाई, ये भी सही है. What we've started doing in Mijwa and around Mijwa is, we've started an initiative called Rozgar Dhaba, which is a knowledge center, a hub, an office where particularly the migrant labor comes, and we connect them to the jobs that are available in that area. And we also help them make their cards, their ration cards, their Aadhaar card. They fill up their forms for them. And we are doing it now in 4 or 5 states. Now that's very, very important.
You indicated basically that equal opportunities for women are essential. Now I'm connecting this to films, when you have done so many films, and those days especially, the role may have been equal, the role may have been important, but the pay packet was lesser. Today, the girls are raising their voice, and some of them have got equal. No evidence to prove it, but what do you think? इस पर आवाज पहले उठानी चाहिए थी?
देखिए, you must understand the economics of the film business. Okay? Now, if a film with a girl as the main character, with the man in a subsidiary role, does well, and if such films do well, then producers will start making such films. The thing is, if films with women in lead roles have to curb their budget, then women will get less money. The point is to make visible strong female roles and get girls to do it. And now it's becoming better because mainstream stars are doing these films. And in time, if their films start becoming successful, and in the cases where they have become successful, the girls are taking good money. It's just got to do with the economics of it. Because a person, unfortunately, with a male actor, the film clocks in more money from the distributors than it does for a woman. It's a very sad state of affairs. It's for the same amount of work.
आपने जब कहा कि मेनस्ट्रीम सिनेमा, तो एक सवाल आ रहा है मन में. You did mainstream cinema, and that time it was, the other cinema was also called art cinema, parallel cinema. But today, these two lines have completely, there's no
blurred.
Dividing line. It's just one, right? But when you did certain films, like I remember, you did films like Chor Sipahi, Parvarish, you did Amar Akbar Anthony, you did those kind of films. I would like to know that, I'm just curious, that were you comfortable in those films? Because I saw you and everyone saw you. Most of the films जो पैरेलल सिनेमा और आर्ट सिनेमा के थे उन दिनों, और आज भी जो फिल्म्स हैं वो बहुत ही स्ट्रॉन्ग. तो वो फेज में जो आपने कुछ फिल्में की जहां गाने थे, डांस थी, आप कंफर्टेबल थे?
Of course not. Of course not. And I keep saying that those films were successful in spite of me, not
Hmm.
because
Hmm.
of me. But the
Hmm.
fact is that I enjoyed doing Parvarish very much. I was very
Hmm.
fond of Manmohan Desai. And I
Hmm.
remember Manmohan Desai coming to me, and I think I was shooting at Ranjit's studio or something.
Hmm.
And he came and he said, "Listen, Shabana, because we were working in Parvarish at that time.
Hmm.
And he said that I'm making a film, I'm producing a
Hmm.
film, and I want you to do it. And the fact is that there's no role for you. But वो क्या है ना, वो विनोद खन्ना मेरी जान खा जाएगा कि ऋषि कपूर has a girlfriend and Amitabh Bachchan has a girlfriend, so why should I not have a girlfriend? So
Hmm.
that's why I'm ghusawing you in
Hmm.
this." Now,
Hmm.
I thought that was so endearing and so candid, and I had enjoyed working with him so
Hmm.
much
Hmm.
in in Parvarish
Hmm.
that I said, yeah, I'll do it. In fact, you know, if you see, for actors doing what was referred to as art cinema is
Yeah.
a lot easier because the situations are so real and so close to life that it's not difficult to identify with them. But now in Parvarish, imagine for one whole month, Neetu Kapoor and I were hanging from a well which was created at RK Studios,
Hmm.
and the villains were fighting on top. We were hanging from the wells, and there were crocodiles in the water that were waiting to eat up our feet. Now, can you bring any degree, any degree of reality in that? So that was a greater challenge. So it's been fun.
But I also enjoyed both of you lying on the railway tracks in that song, you know.
That's why we enjoyed that song very much. Yes,
Yeah.
it was lots of fun.
जाते
Yeah,
हो जाने जाना.
that's right.
But I must tell you that you mentioned Amar Akbar Anthony, the song where all the three lead couples are shown. हमको तुमसे हो गया है प्यार. I still rate your stanza with Vinod Khanna ji the best. Where सिर्फ आप कपड़े सुखा रही हैं अगर आपको याद हो.
That's right.
And
That's right.
he's
Yeah,
sitting on that pendulum sort of a thing and singing away.
that's right. True.
Tell me about censorship. I want to ask you specifically the question that you have advocated that censorship should be almost done away with or whatever. But herein lies a catch. Don't you run the risk of certain filmmakers misusing the freedom of showing whatever they want to in the name of freedom of
See,
expression?
okay, now let me say for the nth time that the model that we follow
Hmm.
of film certification, and let's not call it the censor board because it's not the censor board. It
Hmm.
is a film certification or a
Hmm.
film classification.
Hmm.
The minute you say censor, you feel अच्छा अभी इसमें तो कुछ काटना जरूरी है.
Hmm. Hmm.
The fact is that we follow what is the British system.
Hmm.
That in itself is flawed.
Hmm.
What I advocate is the American system, whereby a body is created of people from within the film industry who understand film, and they voluntarily then decide that this is the certificate they want. So if they want absolutely no cuts in their
Hmm.
film, and there's a lot of violence and a lot of things that wouldn't be good for
Hmm.
children, then
Hmm.
they're willing to accept a triple X
Hmm.
certificate.
Hmm.
Or if they feel
Hmm.
that no, they want a PG or they want an adult certificate, then they themselves say, all right, we will cut these things from it. So
Okay.
trust them. No, they're people
Yeah.
from within the
Hmm.
industry, and they have shown
Hmm.
remarkable understanding of that. So somebody else doesn't go snipping your work. You snip your work because you want a particular
Hmm.
classification
Hmm.
for it. That is the way of doing it.
So this should have been my first question, actually. How is your health now? That terrible accident which you had, and I'm sorry for bringing this, back into your
No, not at
memory
all.
diary.
Please.
But what exactly had transpired during that period, and how are you now?
I'm fine, thank you. And the thing is that after that horrendous accident,
Hmm.
where I was, I fainted, so I didn't know what had happened. But I
Hmm.
was told that it was a very close shave. The flip side of it is that at least I could prove to people that I had a brain because that got hurt. So now nobody can say, "Ah, but yes, she doesn't have a brain." They realized that a brain to hai. That's a light way of looking at it. Secondly, remember that exactly 40 days after my accident, I was in Budapest shooting for Halo
Hmm.
at a time. So that's fine. At the moment, I am shooting for uh, Nikhil Advani's Mughals.
Yeah.
So you have to carry on with your work. That's the important thing. It's the work that keeps you going. And really, at the time of the accident, I was so overwhelmed by the outpouring of love and respect that I received from everywhere in the world that I think it was that led to my healing. And it was, it was like it was 3 days of celebration. We were celebrating Javed's birthday, and 3 days the celebrations went on until 5 o'clock in the morning. I was dancing, and suddenly in the afternoon, when people heard I'd had this accident, they just couldn't uh, believe it. It was one of those freak things. But
Any
since then,
precautions
I've
you have
gone
to
to
take now?
Khandala, and I'm
Yeah.
not scared.
Any precautions you have to take now? Anything in particular?
See, I've gone to Khandala. I've gone past that spot several times
Hmm. Hmm.
without carrying the fear within me. I have to be a little careful, but I'm not really all that careful. I think you should live life to
Hmm.
the fullest, and
Yeah.
that's what I continue to do. And this, you know, the lockdown and the pandemic has made many things abundantly clear. For one thing, it has made me realize that we need to simplify our lives
Yeah.
a lot. And we don't need all the things that we constantly keep collecting:
Hmm.
more clothes, more shoes, more bags,
Hmm.
more this, more
Hmm.
jewelry,
Hmm.
etc.
Hmm.
You don't really need it, because now, when nobody was coming to visit you and you were going to visit nobody, you were just in very casual clothes. You never wore any makeup, you didn't. So then it makes you think, my God, so all this effort is only for other people, not
Hmm.
because you are enjoying it. So then why do you need all these things? So I think an understanding of that has been very healing. Then also this understanding that each one of us is so deeply connected. The rich and the poor, the old and the young, the the developed nations and the developing nations. The virus hasn't spared anybody. So we really need to be more empathetic to each other. We need to have a much more sustainable relationship with nature. And we need to help each other. All these are lessons, and you have to live in the moment now. We are always thinking of the future, or we are thinking of the past. But now, since nobody knows when it's going to get over, what it does is almost in a sort of spiritual way, it
Hmm.
makes you live the here and the now. We were away in Khandala for 2.5 months in our house in Khandala, and it was very nice. We were sort of living in a bubble over there. But now things have gone back to work. I'll also be going to Budapest again for my shooting. So it's happening. But it does make you painfully aware uh, of the lacuna that are there in our public health
Yeah. Yeah.
system. How much we need to improve that.
I conclude by requesting you to put your hand on one film which is your number one, and one film which in hindsight you feel you shouldn't have done. You are an opinionated person, and tell me about it.
Uh, no, I wouldn't like to say that there is any film that I shouldn't have done, because I have learned as much from the films uh, that didn't do well,
Mm-hmm.
or that in hindsight I feel, "Arey, I hadn't thought about it enough."
Mm-hmm.
But it's very difficult for me to place my hand on one film and say, this is my favorite film, because I feel that I there are some films in which I'm good, in some there are parts in which I'm very good, some of it I'm okay, some of it I'm quite bad. So it's not as if I've given perfect performances for me to say, oh, I can say, yes, this film had the least number of mistakes. I can say that. I can't say that this is a best
Can we have
performance.
that movie
But,
where you think you had the least number of mistakes?
it's a very little seen film called Khandar by Mrinal Sen. And that film, I think I made the least number of mistakes. But I don't want to dwell only in the past. No, I mean, life is looking up. I've got lots of things to do. I'm looking forward to the films that are going to be released, the films that I am making. I'm
Yeah,
very excited with the OTT platforms opening up,
yeah,
because what that has done is made the industry realize that content is king.
yeah,
And that, I think, is very healthy. And so what is happening is, because content is king, so you're making
yeah,
films that are not necessarily
yeah,
catering to
yeah,
the lowest common
yeah,
denominator,
yeah, yeah,
but they are rich in themselves. And so they have uh, very interesting parts for older people,
yeah,
which was not available
yeah,
10 years ago. But
yeah.
now substantial parts are being made available for older actors, both male actors and female actors. And
Absolutely, absolutely.
I'm happy with it.
Yeah, I know. I've spoken to the eternal optimist because I keep reading you saying that today's cinema is changing and it's very exciting. And, such statements coming from a senior actress are really motivating. And somebody who's really looking forward to the future and lives in the present as well. So thank you, Shabana ji. Thank you so much for talking to me, for talking so much at length. And I thank you from the entire team of E Times for this
Okay,
lovely
all
interview.
right. Bye bye.
Thank you so much.
Bye. Bye bye. Thank you.